morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios, where the only trade the Packers made yesterday was trading a possible winning season for an inevitable losing season. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Packer fans worldwide, welcome to the Sports Carnival. I'm Dave. This is Chad, the producer. We're broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room. And Chad, I tell you what, if there was a lot to be built into a name, this morning's Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room, would be the exact perfect place for all Packer fans to have to come and congregate, because Chad, the Packers were the only team in the NFC fucking North that didn't make a significant trade yesterday. It was the most crazy and active trade deadline in the National Football League. We were going back and forth in 30 years. There were more trades than were made in 30 years, and the Green Bay Packers were not amongst them. I caught something this morning, which seems to be a narrative that we hear a lot. The Packers were rumored to be in the running for Chase Claypool, but then the Bears sweetened the pot just a little more. And if you're a Packer fan this morning, listen, go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. If you're a member of the Sports Carnival group page on Facebook, take this morning's poll question. Morningwood, climb this thing. You may have expected the Packers to do nothing. That's fine. How do you feel this morning? How do you feel? Even if you talked to yourself all day yesterday about the inevitability of Green Bay maybe not making a move, how do you feel about this? Because, Chad, we had a ton of votes on our poll question yesterday with about 77 total respondents, or 77% of the total respondents saying they did not think the Packers were going to make a trade. That was 77% of the folks, I hope, this morning that aren't crying in their coffee. This is just wild. I don't know what to think about it right now. I don't know what to think about it yet.
Rob Dog, take note from the Bears on how to get a wide receiver, just rubbing the salt in the wound.
Woo.
Yeah, it just feels like they're, and we can ask Hunter coming up here at 8:30 what his thoughts are, but you and I have kind of talked about it. It seemed like there's a bit of a stalemate between Aaron Rodgers and upper management. And it was like, who's going to blink first? And Aaron Rodgers was kind of like, saying, okay, well, bring me something to the table, put something on the plate. And upper management's like, I don't think so. We're not doing it.
So, Chad, you remember the name Ron Wolf, right? Green Bay Packer general manager for many, many years. Ron Wolf is a guy that I got a chance to interact with, to meet, and actually have a nice, long conversation with couple of years back here in La Crosse. You went to a place formerly called Glory Days, which, if you can imagine, was a Packer establishment. And in the conversation that I had with Ron, I asked him a question that a lot of people have asked him in the time since he left Green Bay as the general manager. Do you wish you would have done more, or could have done more, to surround Brett Favre with more talent? And he told me, Dave, that is the single largest regret in my professional career, was doing every and anything I could possible to surround Brett Favre with the requisite talent to make sure that Brett Favre's career with the Green Bay Packers didn't end the way that it did. And let's be frank about this. For many Packer fans, looking at today, November the 2nd, 2022, it feels a lot like the near end of Brett Favre's career, when you're starting to look at a team that had a young coach, that maybe was going to make it, maybe wasn't. The team started to struggle, went 6-10. And what did they do then? They moved off of Brett Favre and they went to Aaron Charles Rodgers because he was sitting on the bench. I don't think that the Packers are going to Jordan Love like, this guy's a scrub. Okay, I'm sure he's nice to his family, good to dogs, all that shit. But he's a scrub, man. I mean, this can't play football, at least not in the National Football League. So
I like Rob Dog is calling Aaron Rodgers Karen Rodgers. I haven't heard that one yet. Rob Dog.
That was big. That was big around here.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Aaron Rodgers thing was huge because he became like a Karen, right? He really did. He became like a Karen, which I hate to actually bring this up. Like, the male name that they assign people of Karens is Chad.
I know.
I don't know why that is.
I think that's bullshit, by the way. On the behalf of other real Chads, that's total bullshit, because we do not fall in line with that kind of, generally speaking, fall in line with that kind of behavior.
Here's the Chads that I've known to be complete dicks, the ones that call themselves Chadwick. If you call yourself Chadwick, you're probably a tennis pro or some sort of golf douche, and you call yourself Chadwick. Those guys, no bueno.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Somebody mentioned that nickname to me the other day, and I said I don't like that nickname. I had a neighbor used to call me Chadwick. Did not like it then. No, I don't like it now. Because it is very douchebaggery to call yourself or be called Chadwick.
It really is. It's like Bartholomew. This isn't the 1400s. Don't call me Bartholomew. You can just call me Bart. I see our good buddy Marengo Mike is checking in from Marengo, Illinois. He says the Bears, Chad, have a way to go as far as other needs on their team, but Claypool is a great start. Listen, we're going to litigate this entire Packers in action throughout the program, but Marengo Mike, you're right. The Bears yesterday, and this is something that I really, really feel good about if I'm a Bears fan. The Bears decided they needed to actually change what they've been doing since, 1985. The Bears have been trying to, Chad, live off of that 1985 Bears mantra for the last 40 years. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer. They've never been able to figure out a quarterback. They keep paying linebackers and defensive players top of the market money. And yesterday, they sent an absolute superstar, their best player, away. Okay, they trade this guy to the Ravens, Roquan Smith. The Bears, though, do, as Marengo Mike was saying, give their young quarterback at least a fighting chance. Because here's the thing. Would you know if Justin Fields is a good quarterback or not if you give him absolutely no weapons? No, you wouldn't know that, because if the quarterback doesn't have an ability to flourish, you can't accurately grade and judge the man. So what the Bears have decided to do is, look, we've got Matt Eberflus. He's a defensive head coach. He's a new coach, but we got to see if this kid can play. And if he can't, we're going to find out sooner than later. And if he can, giddy up, because the NFL is not going back to Ronnie Lott's defensive era. It's going forward into more of an offensive era.
And if you can't trust your defense in the hands of a guy named Eberflus, you can't trust your defense to anybody. I mean, let's be honest. That's a solid name. I saw that the other day, and I'm like, what is that name?
Yeah.
Eberflus?
If it's hard to pronounce and he's going to be good, it's like Mike Krzyzewski. Speaking of names that might not roll off the tongue, Hunter Baumgardt is going to be joining us this morning at 8:30. Hunter is with our friends at iHeartRadio in Milwaukee. Used to be a regular on my show here in La Crosse. He'll be joining us for the first time on the Sports Carnival. Stick around. Back in a few. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hi, I'm Irene, and I care about you. That's why I started Care Packages by Irene, or CPBI. At CPBI, we have a wide range of care packages, from I care about you but don't get too clingy, to I'm completely obsessed with you and you should probably get a restraining order, and everything in between. Because it's CPBI, if you care, we care.
Visit us online at carepackagesbyirene.omg.
Now back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival, and as Packer fans are finding out, life is like toilet paper. You're either on a roll or you're taking shit from some asshole. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Wow. So do you think CPBI could maybe throw me in an extra soft roll of TP then? Because I feel like, we might be taking shit from some asshole. Hey, sending a shout out this morning to UWL's Thomas. Said he had his second personal training workout, is now getting, Chad, a chance to sit back, relax, and listen to the best two sports guys, Dave and Chad. You see, this is why Thomas from UWL is such a friend of the show, because, Chad, he's always full of positivity. He's always full of such energy. He's part of the Eagles, the Screaming Eagles marching band. And we appreciate you, Thomas. Great to have you aboard. If you want to reach out to us this morning, do so on YouTube, on Twitch. You can probably send us a message through Facebook. The Facebook group, though, keeps you anonymous, at least on our screen. Now, when I go back through the Facebook group, I do get a chance to see who made those comments, and we'll get back and forth. This is P12 Foreman, now on Twitter at Foreman's Funhouse.
Foreman's Funhouse.
Foreman's Funhouse. He says, "Stop being a Chad, you bitch, Karen." LOL. This is the kind of stuff that Foreman would send to me every day that I could never read on air. So now we get a chance to do this, and I love every part of it.
I think that's great. Thanks for checking in, Foreman. Thomas, I don't know, second personal training workout. I'm wondering what kind of regiment Thomas is going through. What are we doing here? Weights?
I would imagine probably some weights.
Biometrics?
Thomas is a lean kid, tall. Okay, so lean and tall. So probably
He's trying to beef up.
Yep, I'm expecting a little beefing up. Well, now Thomas is here at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. And Chad, I'm not speaking out of school. This is not a secret that I'm like letting out. So there's great schools in the Pac-12. Arizona is known as one of the most beautiful schools in the country. Then you've got like USC and UCLA, just gorgeous student body. The University of Wisconsin Lacrosse is like a D1 school with that kind of talent. Gorgeous. I mean, across the board, gorgeous. Faculty,
student bodies.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the football team, Matt Janis will never talk about this, but the football team gets to practice at many occasions while the track team is running around the outside. Now, that's something that if you're in like Bad Santa and say that you're Billy Bob Thornton, you just grab yourself an ice cream cone, get yourself a seat in the stands, and just have a day looking at these guys and gals and saying, Jesus, these are good-looking people in lacrosse. Wow.
When it springs to mind when I played football, the cross-country team would sometimes run across our practice field, right? And we would chase them off. But I never understood, because in football practice, we go, God, you think we have to run today? You know, because we'd have to do sprints or something. We didn't have to do it every single day, but some days were worse than others. And I always thought it was funny. If you're a cross-country guy, you never ask that question, because that's all you do. Practice is running. The sport is running. All you're doing is running. I just find that interesting.
Well, it's kind of like when we saw the documentary Anchorman, as portrayed by Will Ferrell, and he said that there was this new fad. It was called yogging. Apparently, you just run for an indeterminate amount of time, and for what reason?
I believe it's a soft J. I believe it's a soft yogging. I think it's yogging. Yeah.
And Neil did correct me the other day, because I said something about San Diego, and he's like, "Don't you mean Saint Diego?" Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we go on any further, Thomas does want to re-engage us. Says, my goal is to definitely gain some muscle from my personal training. There you go, Thomas. And listen, you're at the right time in your life to really do that, because, you know, my son John, you know, he's all shredded up now, Chad. I mean, he wanted to be like a male model or something, and he's on his way, which is great.
He's mewing his way there.
He is mewing his way to greatness as we speak. And I'm not talking about, like, you know, wearing the ears. He's got his face jaw thing going. The point of it is, he sort of wonders aloud, when will I be able to look like, say, I don't know, Dwayne Johnson? And I'm like, dude, when you're a man, you're still a boy. You're growing into it. Thomas, you're at that perfect transition time, because now you're going to get to go and put on all this muscle. He's going to kill it at UWL. This is going to be great.
Just don't transition too far, Thomas. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
be mindful of transitioning too far.
Exactly,
I'm throwing out there.
That's
we don't
right.
want to get canceled. Okay.
No, we don't. Fortunately, if we do, we're already on the internet. So there is that. They kick us off the broadcast platform. We're already on the internet.
I don't want the Morning View to pick this up and kick us off somehow. I don't know how that works, but
our good buddy Sean Tempest is looking for a hot piece of video, which, by the way, Chad, little inside baseball, Sean stopped doing that show.
He did.
Him and his
forehead doing radio now.
Him and his forehead decided to take their talents elsewhere.
He did have a James Vanderbeek going on there, didn't he?
It was unbelievable. And I could never tell our friend Sean Tempest to look him up online. He's got a beautiful forehead. It looks good in pictures and on TV. Like, you see him in person, it's like, good Lord. I don't know how some people just come across on the camera just so much better than other guys. Neil, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the part-time job that he had, a lot of people didn't know this. He ran a drive-in theater. It was off of his forehead. They just showed the movie.
Hi-oh! Yeah, that was actually kind of cool. Last drive-in theater in Vegas, by the way. That was something. So
Neil is in the house.
He is in the house, and he's like, I think what happened was you guys said a whale's vagina, and I was playing the role of Kelly Bundy and meant to say Saint Diego. Absolutely. And boy, Kelly Bundy, one of my crushes of all time as a kid, Christina Applegate. I'm really sad about her MS diagnosis. I saw her at some award show the other night, and now she is actually sporting, like, how do I say this? Fashionable canes or walking sticks. It just makes me feel sad, because going back to my childhood, married with children, thank God. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, like everything that she was in, I just absolutely loved. I had a huge crush on her. But Chad, I digress, because while we could sit here and talk about our greatest crushes, we need to talk about what exactly Green Bay Packer fans are dealing with this morning. The poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, also on our Facebook group page, is asking you your feeling, okay? not a grade, but your feeling on the Green Bay Packers not making any move yesterday at the NFL trade deadline. Chad, there was a flurry of moves, and the Packers, from what we can tell, were the only team, of significance, especially in the NFC North, the only team to not make a move. You saw trades by Buffalo. You saw trades by Kansas City. You saw trades by the Jets, by the Broncos, by the Falcons, by the Dolphins, by the Steelers, by the Commanders, by the Vikings, by the Lions, by the Bears, by the Eagles, by the Cowboys, by the Raiders, by the Jags, by the 49ers, by the Cardinals, by the Browns, by the Patriots, by the Panthers. You do not see a trade from the Green Bay Packers. I am not suggesting, and we've talked about this for days, that there was one player that was going to go out there and just absolutely change the entire course and dynamic of this year's season for the Green Bay Packers. But look at the three players that we're putting on the screen in front of you. Bradley Chubb. We all talked about the Packers' need for a better edge rusher.
Yep.
And Bradley Chubb is a guy that was available for the get. Well, Miami goes out there and gets this guy. Bradley Chubb and the Dolphins, according to reports, Chad, are looking at negotiating a long-term deal. So it looks like this is going to be something that will come with a long-term deal. TJ Hawkinson, a star from Iowa, tight end for the Detroit Lions, who's already had, I think, 385 yards this season on 26 catches, is a really dynamic playmaker. He now goes to the NFC North leading Vikings, an interdivisional trade that sees the Lions send a player to the Vikings. Now the Vikings have Irv Smith and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. They've got Dalvin Cook and Madison at running back. You've got Adam Thielen, who's like a poor man's Cooper Kupp, and you've got Justin Jefferson, who may be the second coming of Randy Moss, with a quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who, if anything, is capable. I'm not suggesting the guy's a great quarterback, but he's very capable. This is a huge get.
Well,
there's
isn't part of that? Part of that is because Irv Smith, I think, is a little banged up. So this is kind of a little bit of backup too. But I mean, clearly Minnesota's like they're looking. They're in the hunt. They want to win this year, and obviously at 6-1, I don't who blames them. I think it's 6-1, or it's either 6-1 or 5-1. A lot of moves being made all around the Packers. Clearly, they just didn't want to do anything. I heard something about possibly Brandon Cooks, Chase Claypool. There was a couple other names out there, but either it all fell apart or that was all bullshit to begin with.
Well, this is what Packer fans were talking about yesterday, Chad, on Twitter, that for a lot of the last number of years, or for a majority of the trade deadlines for the last number of years, we've heard reports that the Packers were close to somebody, that they were in the mix. And sure. I want to say it was James Owens on my Twitter feed at the Sports Carney that said the same thing. Wait until tomorrow when the Packers will be rumored to have been in the mix for a number of players. But really and truly, the three players that I'm showing you on the screen now were three players that were gettable, that were acquirable, that could have had an impact. I don't know to what degree, but could have had an impact on the Green Bay Packers. Let's just look at Chase Claypool for a second. This is somebody that I wasn't sure the Pittsburgh Steelers would want to trade. Okay, they decided to go ahead and make that happen. The rumor was the Packers offered a second-round pick, but the Bears offered a better second-round pick for Chase Claypool. Fine. If the Packers would have acquired a Chase Claypool, though, what it does is it starts to let you, Chad, slot in the rest of these receivers into their proper slots. Even if Chase Claypool is a low-end one, he's still a more apt one than anybody Green Bay has now. Then you start putting the other guys, the Dobbs and the Christian Watsons, and when he comes back healthy, the Sammy Watkins and the Randall Cobbs, you get to put them into their more perfect spots, a 2, a 3, a 4. You've got Alan Lazard. That's not a 1. That's a 2 or a 3 at best. So by the Packers not getting him, they've really done themselves a disservice in at least one respect. And John Denton mentioned this to me, Chad, the perception of what it is the team's trying to do. John said that while none of these guys would have dramatically altered the course of the season for the Packers in his estimation, it would have done a lot perceptionally to show Rodgers and Packer fans, we're trying. This is something that we're trying to do.
Yeah, and that's my question is, what does it signal not only to fans, but what does it signal to Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the team, and how does that affect them moving forward? Because I'm just going to speak from my perspective. It just seems like upper management has said the season is what it is. We're going to win what we win, and which ultimately means we're looking forward to next season. I guess that's how I interpret it. I may be wrong, but I don't see how you interpret it any other way. Now, obviously, with cap space and the amount of assets they had, they still could have made it happen. They still could have done something. And I think that what you said from the very beginning is true. No matter who they picked up, it wasn't going to be the panacea that everybody wants, right? It's not going to fix everything. but it's an effort. It's an effort. And sometimes effort alone will move you in the right direction emotionally and spiritually, if you will, not to mention from the X and O's standpoint. So to me, it just says that Aaron Rodgers and upper management are on two different pages.
Yes, that's what it should suggest. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, maybe not on different pages because, well, okay, seemingly, yes, you can say that. But what I want to go back to is this. When we talked to Joe D'Aguano on Monday, and Joe and I talked about this even into the end of last NFL season, when the Green Bay Packers decided to pay Aaron Rodgers what he got paid, they basically said, this is the roster that we're going to be able to afford. Right. The NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, they're all different in how you can work in the cap, right? The NBA has got a cap, but it's a softer cap. You go into a luxury tax threshold and it starts to really tax you. But you can get things done. You can re-sign big-time players and make that happen. Major League Baseball, of course, has no salary cap. And the NHL, nobody really fucking knows or cares. The point is, that's true, right? Like with the NHL, they're like, okay, don't bore me with their salary cap stuff. But with the NFL, this is a hard cap. There's no way around it. You only have X number of dollars, and once you allocate those X number of dollars, that's it. Now, the Packers still have to leave some money open, Chad, in case, God forbid, somebody gets injured. They have to call somebody up from a practice squad. You always have to leave yourself a couple of dollars in order to make some moves. But Green Bay just didn't really have anything. And now we look at Morning Wood saying, hey, now Green Bay did make some talent acquisitions yesterday. They hired everyone they need to run the snow hill in the Titletown district. No shit, Woody. No shit.
Boomstick, Green Bay is trying to show they can lose with what they have. Yes, that's exactly right. So as we go into this weekend, at Detroit, again, I think this starts to become kind of funny. I mean, it really becomes funny because, when we're at the beginning of the season, you'd look at the schedule and you'd say, Detroit, oh, there's a win. As we said yesterday, I don't know if that's the case. And now, after yesterday, they didn't make a move. Everybody's just kind of looking around going, what the hell's going on? What can we expect against Detroit? Right? I mean,
right. Well, what you can expect to not see is TJ Hawkinson catching balls over the middle, which may hurt Jared Goff just a bit here. The Lions, again, are in a much different place, and we talked about where they're at. The Lions are trying to build a culture, and that's why they went and got more draft picks, and they're trying to do something to help their team in the year from now or maybe 2 years from now. But the Packers, what can they expect on Sunday? I don't know. I can sense a lot of dejection from Packer fans right now. As a matter of fact, I'm taking a look at our poll question on Twitter at the Sports Carney. That is at the Sports Carney. The Packers were the only team in the NFC North that didn't make a significant trade. Even if you saw that coming, how do you feel? Packer fans, 76.9%, Chad, say they're okay. They expected this. 23.1% say they feel awful and they needed something. Not a single vote yet in on our Twitter feed says, this is great. Our team is loaded, which of course is quite tongue-in-cheek. That's not the right answer. But listen, certain Packer fans, they will live and die by everything is fine because they want that to be the narrative. And I'm okay with that too. But as we saw here from Boomstick, who is Eric from La Crescent, the Packers are going to basically, like you mentioned, try to lose with the players they have. They're either going to win this way or they're going to lose this way. And I'm okay with both of these because, again, we've had to call into question Matt LaFleur's coaching. And while that record looked great, awesome, perfect, 13-3, 13-3, 13-4, you're the man. You've never been able to make in-game adjustments. You've failed in every single playoff attempt that you've made, right? You've never been able to get that done. Well, now it's up to the coach, show what kind of coach he is. Look at Brian Daboll in New York, not to make that hard of a transition. That's coaching you can see, right? Look at what Frank Reich did in tennis or in Indianapolis. Look at what is happening around the league. You can see coaching. You really can. And it's not just that everybody's terrible. The players in the NFL are separated by the thinnest of margins. It's about culture. It's about coaching. And I also think the Packers are in desperate need for leadership. And that's something that I don't know that either Matt LaFleur or Aaron Rodgers has in spades that they can give to these guys. And if so, it just doesn't look like it.
Yeah. And then my other question to you, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but I know that Aaron Rodgers was on Pat McAfee yesterday. Anything news there?
You know what? Nothing of significance. I checked in just a little bit, but I was watching so many other trades go down. Yeah. I was so busy tweeting about the Packers not getting everybody as it started to come up that I forgot to really spend too much time on McAfee. But I see we've got this one. In my opinion, most fans want a Super Bowl. I believe the front office wants to create the illusion of being all in to keep the sheeples reaching for their green and gold wallets. And whoo, boy, that's loaded right there.
This guy, whoever this is, knows what's up. This is how I think. I think a lot of this is illusion. You're right, because not everybody's going to be able to win. By the way, if you don't know this is true, and you can look this up. The NFL is a nonprofit. Okay,
it's a not-for-profit, not a non-profit, but it's a not-for-profit.
Same difference, basically. The bottom line is it's a sham in a lot of ways. I love watching it. It's a soap opera. Okay. And the rules that it's written up, the charter, the way it's written up very similar to the way wrestling's written up. It's entertainment. So, that's what they're doing here. And there's storylines. All of this is entertainment. Anything they put on their screens is entertainment to one degree or another. And that is also baiting people, clickbaiting people, if you will. I agree with that 100%.
Listen, the entertainment aspect of it is real. We know this, but the NFL, I will push back on the wrestling thing only in this way. The NFL has partners in gambling that rely upon integrity of the game in order to make that business not become illicit. Because if that part of the business becomes illicit, then Uncle Sam and his very greedy hands, they will reach in there and take all that money away. So that's where I push back and say it's not quite like the WWE or whatever that is, the WWF or AEW. It's different than that. But to your point, this is all entertainment. Now, Packer fans are going to be the only fans of any team in the history of the world ever, now or forever in the future, that will have a team that's not owned by some oligarch or some rich billionaire. That is the thing. So in certain respects, I don't mind the Packers raising money with fake stock sales. Not like anybody gets any real voting entity with that stock sale, but they did one last year and it was great. It was great for the Packers and they can do a lot of renovations. So in some respects, you're absolutely right that this is about money and it's a money grab. But I do think the Packers told us in the offseason, this is the bed that we have made, and this is what we are going to lay in. Now, Breacher says they weren't going to pay Devontae $25 million this year. Cooks would have been $18 million next year. So Brandon Cooks for the Houston Texans would have been an $18 million charge next year. That was a guarantee in his contract. So you're right about that when P1 breached. That never looked like it was on the table unless Houston was going to pay that salary.
But it was part of a story. That's what I'm saying. I think that's going back to the other post. That's part of this, right? There's a lot of these things that get thrown in there. And for lack of a better way of putting it, it's fake news. It's like, it's not true. You're just throwing names on a board, and the mothership is very guilty of doing this all of the time. It's just speculate, because they need to get traction for a story. And none of it's true. Or not none of it, but a lot of it's not true or it's exaggerated. And clearly they weren't going to do anything with Brandon Cooks. But that was the thing I read yesterday on a couple of different sites, that Brandon Cooks was in they were in the running for it. No, they weren't.
No,
that's a lie.
They never were. And okay, listen, we litigated this when Adam Schefter started all his bullshit during the NFL draft a couple of years ago. ESPN is not ABC. Even though they're owned by ABC, don't go to ESPN and expect breaking hard news. They have partners. They have business partners. The NFL is a business partner. ESPN would bury a concussion story further down than a gangster in Vegas if they felt that it keep the NFL from getting mad at them, right? They would bury that shit right down. Junior Seau could have died in front of us and they wouldn't have said anything. I mean, ESPN's not in the business of showing up their partners. That is for sure. So I don't believe that anybody looks at that, or they shouldn't anyways, as this is God's gospel and Of got to just believe everything. But I try to imagine anyways, Chad, I try to imagine that there is some sort of parity in reporting, that if you're going to report something, that it has to be at least sourced in some way, shape, or form, because otherwise, this is what I said. I could just start making up everything. Hey, sources close to me. Who is that? My third personality. That source is close to me.
Yeah.
Dan Patrick did a great bit on this where they had Jimmy Jimerson, the fake source of everything, come on the show and basically played by one of the Danettes, Pauly, I think. It was awesome. It's a great bit. Jimmy Jimerson, as sources close to me, you're telling me.
That is true, because that's what does that mean? Sources close to you.
We don't know.
It could be your dog.
It could literally be any and everybody that you ever could have wanted it to be. You could say, oh yeah, that was a source close to me. So
Neil Dude is checking back in and says, who knows how this Hoskins trade will turn out, but either way, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, which is absolutely true. If you're not making an effort to get better, then you're being stagnant and therefore allowing yourself to get worse. That's just the way things work.
Yeah, really, standing pat isn't an option in many respects, because what have we talked about in the NFL before? When you stand pat, you're actually losing, right? It's kind of like a Rosie Perez take from White Men Can't Jump. You know, sometimes when you lose, you actually win, and sometimes when you win, you actually tie. All right, boys and girls, stay tuned. The Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room. Back in just about a minute with Hunter Baumgardt. We're going to have some hot news with our good friend from 97.3 The Game in Milwaukee. He's an iHeartRadio star. Stick around. We're coming right back. The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial. My good buddies, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest mortgage team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest mortgage team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Now back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. To borrow from the great Yogi Berra, the Packers just made too many wrong mistakes yesterday. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when Yogi Berra was writing his famous quotes. Wouldn't that have been something? I would have stolen every single one of them and made my own book. It's never over till it's over, Chad. And listen, the Green Bay Packers, that's another Yogi Berra. The Green Bay Packers season isn't technically over, but what we saw the Green Bay Packers not do yesterday is exactly what we want to find out from you on how you feel this morning. Go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. If you're a member of the Sports Carnival Facebook group page, take that poll question there. We'll give some updates as we progress on here. Chad, bring it aboard the Sports Carnival this morning from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, formerly of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Hunter Baumgardt, 97.3 The Games. Hunter Baumgardt, he is killing it out there on iHeartRadio. Hunter, it's great to see you this morning. Great to talk to you. Thank you for making some time. How the fuck you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Dude, I'm doing so good. Everybody's been so excited to have you on the new Sports Carnival. Hunter, before we get into all of what it is we want to talk to you about this morning, the Packers, the Brewers, a little bit of World Series, and I might even sprinkle in some Bucks. Give us the 411, the full 30,000-foot view of exactly what Hunter Baumgardt is doing right now and how some of our folks here in La Crosse who are definitely fans of yours can follow you on your adventures.
Absolutely. So I'm executive producer of Drew and KB, which is our afternoon show at 97.3 The Game here in Milwaukee. And it's broadcast on affiliates around the state. So we're on from 3 to 6 with Drew Olson and KB. And, we're talking sports and stuff. We like to mix in other things throughout the show. Today is Wednesday, so it's Hot Take Hump Day. So we'll be taking hot takes throughout the show. And so we've got a different thing for every day, and it's a lot of fun. So we got that going on. I'll be hosting our Badgers basketball post-game show throughout the season on the station as well, and covering the Brewers and different teams around the city. So, yeah, it's loving it. And we're also, of course, the home of the Packers, and the Packers Radio Network, originates from our studio. So we're working every Sunday and having a blast with that. So it's busy, but a lot of fun.
So, Hunter, how were you disappointed what you saw yesterday? Not surprised? What was your thoughts from yesterday?
Yeah, not surprised at all, really. When you look at what this team has done, and how they've come into the trade deadline the last 3 years, and you could argue probably that this year maybe they needed help more than any other year because they're 3-5. They came in with a 7-1 or a 5-2 record, the last 3 seasons. So this is a team that's in a spot where we haven't seen them in a while when it comes to the trade deadline, but also you have those expectations of you have Aaron Rodgers, and you have to see what you can do when you got him under center. So I think maybe more than other trade deadlines, fans were hoping for a different outcome this year. But to me, I was saying to a couple people, it was like 11 or noon yesterday, and maybe the Chase Claypool deal had just gone down or something. And I was like, there's like a 5% chance that they do something, because they value draft picks so much. And when you do that, you see all these players, getting traded for draft picks. And so if you're tied to your draft picks, then that's not something you're going to do.
Hunter, this is something the NFL has gotten a little bit away from recently. The NBA has kind of gone away from this for many years, but we've seen teams like the Rams, we've seen teams like the Broncos and others ship away draft picks for players in the now because they want to win right now. And I understand the Packers draft and develop. That is what the Packers modus operandi is as a franchise. That's not wrong. But what I'm saying is this, and we talked about Ron Wolf, former GM of the Packers, earlier. When you have a player like Aaron Rodgers, you have a player like Brett Favre, it's almost incumbent on you as an organization to do any and everything possible in order to maximize the talents of that particular individual because of the uniqueness of that. Now, we can look at examples in the NBA. Like I say, draft picks not really worth as much. What the Bucks have done around Giannis, okay? But you see this in the NFL now. The Rams don't value draft picks because really and truly, one of two are going to bust. That's just kind of the way it works. Half of the NFL is undrafted anyways. I guess my question is this then, Hunter. Not that you expected them to make a trade, but if they would have made a trade, who would you have liked to have seen the Packers gotten? Like, who in your estimation would have been the most impactful player that was on the move, or maybe that could have been on the move yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this team is, in maybe other years, you'd be like they're one player away, or right, they're right in the thick of things. But right now they're 3-5, and to me, they need help on defense, offense, and special teams. When you look at all around, and I think basically they just need their guys to play better, especially on the defensive side. I mean, that's been probably the most disappointing, part of that football team. And I think the players will even tell you themselves that they thought they'd be better. But I think, the way the wide receiver position is right now for this team, when you have Allen Lazard hurt and you have Randall Cobb hurt, that to me, and you have, Samari Toure getting, a big part of this team and getting that touchdown pass, and nothing against him, but obviously, and Romeo Doubs, and these guys are young. These guys are still learning the NFL. This is going to be their, 9th game coming up on Sunday, in the NFL. If you can get a guy who's been in the league, a Chase Claypool, or, whoever it happens to be. I mean, there's Brandon Cooks, but he obviously had the salary issue that I don't think they would have taken on anyway. But it sounded like they were close to Claypool, and then the Bears swooped in, and the Steelers chose the Bears because they thought they'd have a worse draft pick, which makes sense. But I think a wide receiver would have helped just because of health right now in this team. And then when those guys come back, all of a sudden you have a tandem of Lazard and Claypool, and then you have Cobb in the slot and, doing the things he's done throughout the season. Then you have a young guy who's shown a lot of promise in Romeo Doubs. I think it elevates that wide receiver room if they would have made that move. But do I think Claypool would have came in and guaranteed the Packers a playoff spot? No. But would it give them a better chance? Yes. Do they have the same chance to get to the playoffs that they did, before the trade deadline yesterday? Yes. Did they, they didn't do what the Brewers did and almost lessen their chances by trading away, right? Because I feel like, to me, that lesson, right, I know. Right, well, and the question we posed a little bit yesterday was, who did better at the trade deadline, Gutekunst or David Stearns? Because David Stearns traded a star away. He got some things in return, and obviously we'll see what those prospects do. Because if the prospects come up and are, lighting the world on fire, then okay, you look back and it's tough because the Brewers didn't make the playoffs, and the Packers, we don't know yet. But I think, I don't think it was one player that would have changed the season necessarily, but if I were to pick a position, it would have been wide receiver.
But maybe that's the reason why they did that. They're not trying to salvage this season. They're looking to the future with their picks. I mean, when we're speaking about looking to the future, what are your thoughts at the beginning of the season, looking at the schedule and seeing Detroit coming up? You're thinking that's a win. What are your thoughts going into this weekend, Green Bay at Detroit?
Yeah, you are thinking that's a win. And I think this weekend, I mean, it's an absolute must win. I think if you lose and you're 3-6 and you lost to a 1-6 team, I know it's on the road. I know Detroit can score points, but you got to score points against that defense. And the Packers defense, should be able to play better. Although we said that against the Jets and the Commanders and the Giants as well, and we know what happened there. But I honestly don't think that the defense played awful in those games. I think they were put in a bad spot, partly because the offense just could not sustain drives in those football games. But you go into Detroit this weekend, and I think it's an absolute must win. I expect them to win, even with how they played. I think the second half against Buffalo showed promise. It was 24-7 at half. They outscored them 10-3 in the second half. You don't take that and say, "Oh my gosh, they're world beaters now." But I think it's more so you can take some of the things that they did, run the football really well against a really good defense. Some of the ways that Dobbs and Toure were playing at the end of that game that maybe showed some more promise. So, if they play the way they did in the second half against the Bills and the defense too, forcing a couple of turnovers, they should absolutely beat Detroit on Sunday.
Hunter, it's so fun having you on because you've been up close and personal with this Packer team since the training camp began. You saw these players, get their initial reps. You've been at the Bucs, you've been at the Brewers. So you get a real firsthand look. Again, we're talking to Hunter Baumgardt. If you're listening to us this morning on Podbean, follow Hunter on social media at Hunter B on air. If you're watching us here on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, you can see his social handles up there. Hunter, I guess I'm going to end with this on the Green Bay Packers, because I look at the team. You mentioned a couple of players that did play better in the second half of Buffalo. That's fine. Do you think that schematically the Packers have the right players for what it is that Matt LaFleur is trying to do? Because you look at the kind of motion that LaFleur runs, and you saw this in practice and in training camp. He likes to put wide receivers in motion. He likes even the running backs to kind of be in motion. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like that. He likes to have the defense set so he can kind of see what it is that he can do and pick and choose that. I guess what I'm asking you is this, Hunter, are we starting to come to a point where after a couple of seasons of great regular seasons, meltdowns in the postseason, and now we're at 3-5, where the Packers need to start looking at a diametric change in their approach offensively? Or is this just about the players on the field, maybe not, as you've mentioned, being ready for this yet, being only in their 9th game of their NFL career?
I think it's more the latter, simply because this team has, unfortunately, they came into this season, and I think they maybe trusted too much that wide receiver and core and what they could do in the draft and what these guys would be this year. Now, did they expect growing pains? I'm sure they did. But did they expect growing pains as much as they have? Well, probably not. And you also have lost Christian Watson, for a good chunk of games so far this season. And you've also lost Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb. Did they have contingency plans for wide receivers going down? It doesn't really, it doesn't seem like it. They kind of expected people to be healthy. Of course, there's going to be injuries to every team, and you can use that as an excuse if you want to. But I think when you look at the overall scope of this team, with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, I think there's been some give and take with both sides, with LaFleur and Rodgers. Rodgers talked on podcasts over the summer about, hey, can we just, hold off on the motion for, a couple of plays here just so I can see the defense. And so I'm sure they've melded together, and they've talked about it. Both Rodgers and LaFleur have talked about how they've melded their systems kind of together, what Rodgers wants to do, what LaFleur's wants to do. And I think it's been a good partnership. I just think that right now, what they could do last year with Devontae Adams and what that opened up for other guys on the field and what that allowed the offense to do was maybe, underestimated when they came into this season and what that impact would have when they don't have Devontae Adams. And so when you look at this Packers team, the more we go through this season, the trade deadline now in the past, it really looks like the window for the Packers to get to that Super Bowl and win one more with Aaron Rodgers might have shut with that field goal by San Francisco and Lambeau last season.
Yes. Sorry. I didn't say that, but I'm a 49er fan.
Oh, well.
He's a little bit sorry.
That's new.
Yeah, that was.
We're getting him on board.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I remember being there last year, and to me, it felt like sitting in that press box. It felt like that was the it felt like that was the end of Rodgers in Green Bay. It really did. Sitting there, I was like, just this feels like, but it might have not been the end of Rodgers in Green Bay, but it might have been that window closing.
Well, and sometimes, and this is true for all relationships, you stay a little bit too long. Tom Brady in Tampa Bay looks like he might have stayed a little too long. Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, maybe it was time for them to make a part. Hunter, we're up against it, but I want to just say this. It's so fucking awesome having you on the Sports Carnival. I am excited for you and all of your endeavors. I can't wait to catch up with you again. Remember, follow Hunter on social at Hunter B on air, 3 to 6 around the state of Wisconsin, iHeartRadio, 97.3 The Game. Dude, appreciate you, man. We'll catch up real soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dave. Thanks, guys.
It's been awesome. All right, Chad.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Hey, it's time for koozies, hot tub, and jacuzzis in downtown La Crosse. Whether you're looking to relax after a hard day's work, or maybe you're up for a little soak and poke, we got you covered. That's right, when you're in the market for a hot tub or jacuzzi, all you have to do is call the Coos. 555-SOAK. That's 555-7625.
Soak and poke is a slang term for hot tub sex. Please practice responsibly.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. As the great Randy Moss once said, when you're rich, you don't write checks. It's straight cash, homie. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Yeah, baby. I'm Dave. He is Chad, and we are having all sorts of fun. The Sports Carnival rolls on. So, Chad, I've got some big news. I've got to announce this right now. This is brand new.
Big news? I don't even know this.
You probably know this, but I'm going to set this up as big news. We've got a new supporter here of the Sports Carnival. The official law firm of the Sports Carnival is the O'Neill Law Firm, downtown La Crosse. My good buddy Sean O'Neill and the O'Neill Law Firm here to help you with family stuff, bankruptcy, even criminal cases. Call the O'Neill Law Firm in downtown La Crosse. Chad, it's very exciting. We're starting to see more and more of our old friends come to the program from the P1 fan club. And we're starting to see the Sports Carney Twitter feed blow up. We're getting a ton of votes this morning on our poll question, as a matter of fact, at the Sports Carney. Give us your feelings on the Packers not making a move. And I just want to say thanks to everybody that helps make this show go, because there's a lot of people that helped it get started, and we're so grateful to everybody. The Midwest Mortgage Team, Mike Garcia, Todd Vercruzzi. Now, Todd's side business that we just saw there, that's something that the Coos, that's different. There used to be a place in Vegas that actually was a soak and poke. We've got Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, the official real estate partner of the show. And of course, our friends over at Preferred Insurance of La Crosse, Auto, Home, Life, Flood Business, Preferred Insurance, the official insurance provider. And then Joe of Helping Hands Landscaping. Used to call Joe on the program Morning Joe when he would begin with me in the mornings. But right now, Joe is out there humping it. Lawn care, snow removal coming up soon. And of course, dog poop removal. That's what you get from Helping Hands Landscaping.
That's
and
no shit.
That is no shit. And then look at this. This is awesome. This is awesome. So we talked about it briefly yesterday, that we were going to have some Milwaukee Bucks tickets to give away. And our friends at Absolute Vodka, Jameson Irish Whiskey, and the Recovery Room are giving away tickets to the Bucks and the Raptors December the 7th at the Fiserv Forum. So all you have to do, Chad, is order an Absolute or Jameson shot or cocktail starting tomorrow at the Recovery Room, and you'll get yourself an entry slip. Now, you'll be able to do that for an entire month. At the end of the month, on the 30th, you're going to hang with me and the Sports Carnival crew from 6 to 10 p.m., and you'll get double entries announcing the winner live on the program December the 1st. Chad, this is an awesome gift. Thanks to our friends at Absolute Vodka and Jameson Irish Whiskey, along with the Recovery Room, for putting this all together. This is awesome. I am so excited.
I'm a bit jealous because I want to go to this game. And I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I'm not going to be able to make the remote, but I won't be there physically, but I will be there spiritually.
Yes, you will.
Oh,
We'll be thinking of Chad. We'll make an avatar Chad, and we'll bring him with us. By the way, Chad, if you are watching us from the Midwest Mortgage team, he's wearing your hat. You see, I was a little tardy in getting stuff out, but I put together a care package. Irene was off that day, so I put together a care package by Dave, poster, the book, and that hat. So hopefully you enjoy it, Chad. You've got a lot of other stuff coming. Matt from the recovery room has got like a Christmas gift package. I don't know if you're going to have to get a small forklift. Do you have any like ATVs on your property right now that you'll be able to bring in all the stuff with? Or how do you think you'd manage a large shipment?
I do work at a place that there are forklifts, and I do have a operator's license, so I can probably navigate that. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's great to hear.
Are you being facetious, or is this legit? Is this going to be a large package, or is this...
It's probably going to be a fairly large package once it's assembled.
All right.
Yeah, I would say you might need 2 hands to pick it up and possibly a team lift.
I am, as you know, used to handling large packages. So,
yes, this is something we have known for many years. As a matter of fact, that was your radio name in Vegas, was Large Package.
Michael Garcia says, sorry you didn't get the black one, Chad. Well, you know why? It's not your fault, Michael. That's Dave's fault.
It is.
Dave stole that from me, and it's totally cool. I appreciate the hat. It's actually... You know what? Now that I look at it here on, outside of my cherubic face, as Dave would call it, I like it. So
it's gorgeous, man. And these
look at those fingers. Jesus, look at that. That's called a well-hung lesbian, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that. Look at that.
All you're doing right now is exciting our ladies out here in Wisconsin. That's all you're doing.
I can play women's softball. Look at that.
Oh, man. You don't know my idea for the Super Softball League, do you?
No, but I would love to hear it. Do we have time?
So, yeah, we've got time. So basically, you take great women's college softball players and a couple of former major leaguers, 6 teams. Okay, you do a barnstorming thing. The major leaguers only get to play first and third base. No position players, no managers, no pitchers, everything. First and third base. That way you can take guys that are not necessarily athletically inclined as much anymore, but can still possibly rake. Then, of course, these first couple of years, the major leaguers are going to think they're going to knock these balls out of the park every time. They will be struck out 55 to 60% of the time because softball pitches are so much different. My hope is that you get this excitement around softball, because here's my thing with softball and baseball. Softball moves at such a better pace than baseball. It clips, it goes. The field is shorter, which means the athleticism that you can see so on display when you're watching basketball being just different. I mean, just very, very different. When you shorten that field, it completely changes the way in which the ladies can go out there and make some of these incredible athletic plays. Yeah. And I just think it would be a really good example of, just because you played men's Major League Baseball doesn't mean you can play a different sport and right away knock it out of the park. Now, eventually, my hope would be that men start to play fast pitch softball more and more and more, and then you start to get a collection of younger men and women in both positions that would be able to compete against each other. But overall, Super Softball League, 6 teams, barnstorming, only guys at first and third. The females are the rest of all of the position and the managers. And then you just kind of, you see what softball could really do. I think it would be awesome.
So this is kind of like another league. It's like the big 3 kind of they did in basketball.
Exactly. And you barnstorm, so you don't have to, have a home city or an arena, but you have 6 teams and they just, compete around the country.
And I do believe Jeremy Foreman's asking a good question here. Are you talking about high pitch or fast pitch softball? I think you're talking about fast pitch.
Yeah, we're talking about like real softball. College World Series softball. I want to see fast pitch softball, which again, I just think it would be so awesome. It's like when Billie Jean played tennis against, who did she play against and won? I forget.
Connor.
That's
Jimmy
right.
Connors and Billie Jean King. Yeah.
And Billie Jean King. And this was like the battle of the sexes, right? Well, Connors thought that at any age he could beat a woman. He was wrong. He was wrong. He was wrong. Yeah. It'd be like McEnroe trying to play Serena Williams right now. Just not even close.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
But I think that the way the nation would be able to look at this, and especially where we're at now with this whole, listen, we're shifting all of our pronouns. We're doing these things. Having a league like that where there would be actual male-female integration in a way that wouldn't necessarily have to rely upon the physicality of either because of the game being so much different. I just think it would be a really fun way to go.
And I think the one thing that you talk about, and they're going to address this next year in Major League Baseball, where they're speeding and they're having a pitch count or whatever, is it is a little bit just because of the way that society is going and the internet and everything is in small, quick, fast, you know what I mean, to consume. You don't want these long, drawn out things. And baseball can be long and drawn out. It's funny because I was working on something. It was, Major League Baseball, just slightly less boring than the WNBA, which is kind of the truth. Which is interesting that there was a suggestion by Shaquille O'Neal, and he wasn't being derogatory, but he was saying, if you just lowered the basket like to 9'5" in the WNBA and you had the dunk, that would make it so much more interesting because, like you said, they've got handles, they can shoot, they can do fundamentally, they're awesome, but you don't have that verticality, you don't have that athletics part of the game that makes it exciting. And I think little tweaks like that in these games, for the newer audience, the younger audience, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. At the same time, I think that especially with basketball, right, the athleticism in the NBA is so much different than they're the best athletes overall, pound for pound, in the world. Those are the best 300 athletes in the world. We've seen this. Guys like Antonio Gates never played a down of football in their lives. Were basketball players, go out and become one of the best tight ends of all time, right? You can learn football depending on your athleticism at any time. Like you maybe not quarterback and a couple of things, but other things you can learn at any time. Basketball is not like that. So to me, they could lower the basket to 4 feet. It'll never look like it does in the NBA. These guys glide in a certain way that just other human beings don't do it. But to the softball end of stuff, we're talking about a different kind of game, and it's a faster game. See, this is, Chad, where I really worry about Major League Baseball. Look at this. We've only got an hour show. The World Series last night was awesome. I cashed a 2-team parlay, part on the World Series, part on an NBA game. We haven't talked about it at all because the Green Bay Packers not making a trade was actually a bigger story than Game 3 of the World Series.
7-0. Yeah.
The Philadelphia Phillies hit a World Series tying record, 5 home runs. Yeah. When John and I, my son, tuned the game on last night, it had just started in time to see Bryce Harper launch the first of these things out of the park. And then before I switched over for good, I saw the last of those homers be launched out. Look, Major League Baseball is still great. And in the postseason, it's really awesome. If, Chad, Major League Baseball season was the playoffs, it would make all the sense in the world. But for 162 games, it's too long. And the games, I'm sorry to say, are too long also. And not to say that there isn't a fan base for that. You can still get $6 tickets at a Brewer game. That's awesome. But you're talking about an 8-hour time commitment, 3.5 for the game, travel, parking. Bro, there's nothing else that asks that of you. There's no other sport that asks that of you. And you have no definitive time in which you get to leave.
The good news about watching Major League Baseball is you can get shit done. You can do other things while watching it. You can wash dishes, you can vacuum, you can paint your house, you could go on a drive and come back. I mean, you can do, by the way,
all those things.
Foreman mentioned Jenny Finch, yes. The other thing I wanted to mention last night, watching that, those last 2 home runs, it's really fun to say in a German accent, Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins. I thought that was interesting. I thought both of them
more aggressive.
Yeah, both of them hitting back-to-back home runs. And I tell you what, the Phillies just have that. And I've said this to somebody else, and I'm sure somebody else on national TV's maybe already said this, but reminds me a little bit of the 04 Boston Red Sox. And
we talked about that yesterday. Yeah.
Full disclosure, I am a Red Sox fan, so I know that sounds a little biased. But you look at, Brandon Marsh kind of reminds me a little bit of Johnny Damon. There's a couple of guys on the, you could maybe say Schwarber's kind of like Big Papi, or you could say Bryce Harper. They have that. They just have some kind of chutzpah that there's some kind of energy, and they're never out of a game, and they can be explosive. And it was actually a lot of fun to watch when I was in between vacuuming and doing dishes.
Yeah, the times that I did watch last night's game were fantastic. And listen, I put together a daily play. It's Dave's Daily Play. Put it out on all our socials. I told you yesterday on Dave's Daily Play, I loved Suarez in this pitching matchup. I took the Phillies on the money line. I also took a stab at the NBA, the Bulls versus the Nets. The Bulls beat the Nets last night. The Nets are in an absolute free fall. And we've got to talk about this coming up tomorrow, because tonight the Bucks are back in action. They'll be taking on the Pistons. Final game of a 6-game homestand, the longest this season for Milwaukee. Tip-off 7 o'clock on Bally Sports Network. But tomorrow, Chad, we'll talk more about the Nets, the disaster that is the Brooklyn Nets, the greatness that will be the 7-0 Milwaukee Bucks. And we'll see if there's any more fallout from the Green Bay Packers not making a move. Again, if you haven't yet climbed our poll, go to Twitter at the Sports Carnival, or Facebook if you are a group member on the Sports Carnival group page. For Chad, I'm Dave, and thanks to all our supporters. Thanks to Hunter Baumgardt for joining the program this morning. Hope y'all have a great rest of your hip-hop hump day or whatever you want to call it. Get over the Packers hump day. We'll talk to you in the morning.